Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it's Monday, and that means it's time for the Wrestling Inc. WWE Raw After Show featuring the world-famous Triple J, Justin LaBar, Jack Farmer, Korderas, Jimmy Korderas. We've got all sorts of stuff to break down tonight. We've got a big show to break down tonight. Not the big show, Paul White, but just a big old WWE episode of Raw. But before we get into it, how are my fellas doing? Justin LaBar, how's your fantasy football team?
Oh, I don't know. I don't even let it get to me anymore. I've recognized it now as a source of free comedy for me. Well, not free. It cost me $100 to get in the league, but yeah. I'm actually going to break even. I'm going to break even because aside from paying out the top 2 or 3 finishing teams, we also have special awards. We have an eliminator pool, which is, which team can consistently not be the lowest scoring team each week it's left, and what have you. We have most points by player. That one I still hold right now. I think it's with Stephon Diggs. So unless somebody can top that, I'm going to get my money, but I'm at least going to break even and get my money. Well, and it'll just be it'll be my money that goes towards my dues of next year. So it won't be a loss. So yeah.
We're very similar. I'm kind of in a similar boat. I won. We do similar stuff. We had a week where the person with the number 1 running back in the league gets $50, and so I won back some of my losses. But my team's so bad, I was literally out of the game this week before the morning games were over on Sunday. Like they were like not even finished, and it was like, oh, this is done. I'm out. But so it goes. Jimmy, how's your fantasy hockey league doing?
No, well, I'm not in a fantasy league. I'm just in the camp of, okay, is this going to be the year that finally the Maple Leafs break out of that slump where they haven't won the Stanley Cup since 1967? As I tell a lot of people, and I hate to brag about this, I was one of the few people alive when last time they won the Cup.
Well, you don't have a fantasy hockey league. How's your fantasy curling league doing?
That on that note, no. Yeah, I got out of the fantasy league stuff for a little bit. I do an online one with a local famous coffee company up here.
Ooh.
Where basically you pick 3 players that you think are going to score that night, and you get points, and it works towards getting free coffees and that sort of stuff.
Oh, that's a good deal. I like that deal. I need to get my local coffee place on board with all of that. But we have a good show tonight. We have some news we got to get into before we get into all that. And I'm talking about good shows and good stuff, but we're going to start with some bad news, and not the kind that Wade Barrett brings, just ratings bad news. AEW Rampage hit a viewership low this past Friday night with a draw of 361,000 viewers on average, according to data shared by WrestleNomics. Furthermore, with 104,000 viewers between the age of 18 and 49 tuning in, good for just a 0.08 rating in that 18 to 49 demo. This is a new low in total viewership for Rampage across the board, and in its normal time slot, with its previous lowest being a 0.11. Meanwhile, a preempted SmackDown on FS1 reached an average of 902,000 viewers, as well as 326,000 from the ages of 18 to 49, which came out to a 0.25 in the 18 to 49 rating. Justin, there's no way to sugarcoat this. That's just bad news for Rampage.
Yeah, I mean, you just keep getting lower and lower. The basement just keeps sinking. I mean, I'll say this. I don't watch Rampage on any kind of regular, consistent basis. Apparently I'm not alone in that, as these numbers would tell us. but I say that to point out that if and when they start to try to do something different, I'll have to hear about it, or I'll have to read Twitter timeline, and that'll get me to go over and watch. But by the numbers and by the way they still promote it on Dynamite, I'm just gonna guess they still have not changed. I'm gonna just assume that they still figure they're just gonna throw these things at it for this 1 hour show, and it obviously something is missing to keep people coming back. It doesn't mean that the performers that are on the show aren't good performers, but it takes more, so something's missing. Again, full disclosure, I don't stay up to sit and watch it at 10 o'clock on a Friday night, and I think it's probably set on a DVR, but I rarely do I go back and see it unless I see, oh my God, you got to see the spot, or you got to hear this promo, which again, randomly or rarely does that happen for Rampage. So I don't know. And then just real quick, you mentioned the SmackDown numbers. Just to put it in perspective, this goes out to Raj. He dug this up earlier. So that was they've done 8 shows. They've done 8 SmackDowns on FS1. That was their 3rd best audience. That was tied for their 4th best 18 to 49 key demo. So right in the middle, not the best, not the worst for SmackDown on FS1. Back on Fox this Friday. Coming to you from Pittsburgh. I'll be there. So we'll be celebrating Kurt Angle's birthday.
Oh, that'll be fun to get to go see. Will Kurt Angle get through it unscathed? That's the question we're all waiting to see. But yeah, Jimmy, I always say I don't necessarily look at individual ratings because I feel like they never really tell the full story. I always look more at the trends, because for there could be a million things that cause ratings to go down. And for instance, I don't stay up late to watch Rampage either. Well, I don't watch Rampage late on a Friday. I usually DVR it and watch it later. But that said, it's been at that same time slot for a long time. So it's not like this is new. It's been trending down. And that excuse starts to disappear if you had numbers and they're slowly dropping as opposed to just coming in at that numbers, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah, it does make sense. And the unfortunate thing, I know, I'm kind of like Justin, but for a different reason, because up here in Canada, it doesn't air on regular television. You have to go online to watch it. The broadcast station that broadcasts Dynamite on TSN up here in Canada, they don't broadcast Rampage. So you have to go to their website. You can still access it through TSN website, but again, it's going online to watch it. And yeah. So needless to say, I'm like Justin, I don't watch it very often. I kind of rely on, again, social media and reading stuff online to see if there's something that I should pay attention to. But to your point, I think it's a clear sign of something's not clicking with that show. It just doesn't feel like it is a must-see television, let's put it that way. And I know people are going to say, yeah, but the ratings for all shows are down and stuff like that. And yes, I get that. It's a different era. It's a different time. But this is a good time to be a wrestling fan because there is some good programming out there. I just think that Rampage, from what I've seen of it, it doesn't attract me emotionally. You talk about talking people into seats. They're not talking me in front of my screen.
Yeah, and look, if you are an AEW diehard, if you are a Rampage diehard, which I guess there's 300-some thousand change of those left at the moment, you'll watch. You're going to consume that hour and you're going to love it. But like Jimmy's saying, you got to be able to you got to talk new people in, and you're already dealing with an uphill battle. I think with Rampage, the fact that it's Friday night at 10 p.m. Eastern time, that's just not an attractive time. In terms of if your key demo is what it is, I mean. I don't know. Isn't that key demo? Isn't Friday night at 10 o'clock? Aren't they doing other things than sitting around watching live wrestling? So I don't know. I maybe if Rampage is on a different day, different time, maybe it has different success. I don't know. Yeah. And will that happen? I don't know. But as it stands now, man, yeah, it continues. Just there's no excuse. The trend just keeps going down. They again, from what I see on Dynamite, they try to throw a few more heavier names on Friday to give some credibility to the show. But something's not obviously clicking.
Right.
I mean, if you're an AEW diehard, it's not necessarily, I don't think personally it's a bad show, but you can't argue the numbers, And like I said, if the first episode and from when they started was at 300,000, or what number was it at? 361,000 viewers. I'd be like, it's the time slot. It is what it is. But it wasn't always there. And it's not like it just dropped once. It's not like it has been a slow decline. So I feel like there's no way around it. Something, if you want the ratings to go up, needs to change. There's just, even if you love it, even if like this is the best show in wrestling, something's not clicking.
Exactly. And I think part of the problem too with the AEW diehards is AEW does cater to their audience. But their audience is the hardcore diehard fan, and that's the only audience they're catering to. They're not catering to the. I hate using the term casual fan because there isn't a whole lot of those either anymore. But still, you're not catering to those that are. I'm going to tune in regardless, no matter what. Those are the only fans they're catering to, and even they're kind of slowly kind of going, well, you know what. It's and again, as far as the time slot goes, It's different going from 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock if you've already had the show on television for a little while, even if it started at 9.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, like you look at Raw Monday night starts at 8 o'clock. So keeping an audience from a 10 to 11 hour would be easier in that regard, as opposed to having 1 hour starting at 10.
Right.
If that makes any kind of sense.
Yeah, it's a tough spot to be in. We'll see if anything changes on there. But I don't know. I haven't heard of anything happening with that, but we'll see. Speaking of things that might happen and might not happen, on a recent episode of the Extreme Life of Matt Hardy podcast, Matt explained that his ideal retirement scenario would be teaming up with his brother Jeff to have one final tag team match against Edge and Christian. Our rivalry, he went on to say, our rivalry is just so iconic. I feel like that would be a pretty amazing way to end it, having one last match with those guys. Jimmy, I think that'd be cool. I think I would agree with that. It'd be a nice little bookend in a lot of ways to their career. I can't imagine anyone saying they wouldn't like that. But if I'm being the negative Nancy naysayer person, if you're a legendary tag team and you're gonna go out, shouldn't you be doing it with a younger team?
If you're trying to elevate a team, but at the same time, this is, you know, you want to end your career on your term, so to speak. And when you've had your greatest moments, so to speak, with let's say, you know, Matt and Jeff had some awesome moments, and revolutionary moments. You know, the first ever ladder match by a tag team was them too, and then the TLC matches, throwing the Dudley Boys in the mix, and they just had some amazing moments that people still talk about to this day. How many people still talk about WrestleMania 17 and that spear when Jeff was hanging from the belts in the center of the ring, and Edge speared him off from the top of the ladder and stuff like that. You know what? I would love to see it. For me, and if that makes them happy going out that way, then they should go out that way. And if there's one match that would coax me out of retirement to referee one more, that would be one I would love to do.
Yeah, Justin, I was just playing when I said that they should have a match with a younger team. I think that would be really cool to see these two teams go at it for a final match. But my question for you here, Justin, Mr. Fantasy Booker, who goes over, brother?
Oh, yeah, that's I don't know how you do that. I don't, especially if it's the last one for all of them. Maybe that's where your rub to a younger team comes, where it looks like we're gonna have to finish, and then some young team comes in and just steamrolls the whole thing. And we end a draw, and then we end with a whole bunch of heat on that young team. Maybe. Here's what's so cool about this is that, you know, all four of those guys are in their late 40s right now. They're all creeping up at 50. I think Jeff's the youngest of all of them, and obviously he's the one right now whose health and status isn't the most questioned, but hopefully, you know, comes out on the other side and everything's okay. But also all the guys they're in the late 40s. They're all still in really good shape, relatively speaking, for what the average 48 or 49-year-old walking around in America looks like. And they're all still involved with the business. They're all still actively taking bumps. We have seen all four men take bumps in this calendar year. So, you know, that's why I thought this was interesting to talk about, because while right now contractually how that happened, you know, with obviously mainly Edge being the one who's over signed to WWE, and the other three are under the AEW banner, it's not impossible to think that it could happen. Where? I don't think Edge is going to AEW. I don't know what timeline it would take to get all three guys that are under AEW back. So it's almost be one of those things where this would truly be the forbidden door, where you'd almost have to have Tony Khan and Triple H both give an okay. And if there was some massive independent show, kind of to akin of what Ric Flair had a few months ago, that Conrad and then put on, if you had a big, massive independent show where you could get all parties there, you know, especially they did it in the Carolinas, or they did it, you know, somewhere that had some geographical, historical significance. You could do a best of 3 series. You got one in Toronto, one in the Carolinas, and a third one in a neutral spot on the week of Mania or something. But that's what's kind of crazy is that you said fantasy booking, Jack. This isn't actually that impossible to dream up, that this could still happen in the next couple of years if all parties remain healthy. And if the chips kind of fall in a favorable way.
It's so crazy because you say in their 40s, and I know for Earth that's not old, but like I think back to the old WCW, they would get mocked for having these rickety old dinosaur wrestlers that were like 41. and and so many people are so much older than the people they were in like the late period WCW. And you would never tell, like the way they can just move and the way they stay in shape and the way how healthy some of these guys are going into their later years. It's incredible.
Yeah. And you look at some of the guys nowadays, you look at still jealous of a guy like Billy Gunn when I see a guy like him and it guys are staying in shape. It's not like back in the day when guys would go out and just party all night and then bump all day.
Yeah. It's a different world. Goodbye the past and hello fresh, where you get farm fresh pre-portioned ingredients and seasonal recipes delivered right to your doorstep. Skip trips to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. And that's why it's America's #1 meal kit. It's the most festive time of the year, and HelloFresh is here to help make the most of every moment. From holiday hosting to dinners to during busy weeknights, you can count on HelloFresh to deliver fresh ingredients and seasonal recipes. 'Tis the season for saving money wherever you can. HelloFresh is cheaper than grocery shopping and 25% less expensive than takeout, so you can use those savings for holiday gifts or to treat yourself. And I say, treat yourself, Justin LaBar. What are you treating yourself with HelloFresh these days?
I love the firecracker meatballs, which I think that was a Raj. Raj was going on and on about those. So I finally, because you can customize your menu if you want. They'll spit out 3 things and say, hey, we're going to give you these 3 things. But if you want to sub, or if you want to say, no, I want this, I want more seafood, or I want more vegetarian, whatever you want. So the firecracker meatball is really good. The chicken and Dijon sauce is very basic, but hey, I mean, it's chicken, some Dijon sauce, got some balsamic, kind of salad. There was some garlic bread toast that came with it. Barbecue ranch chicken flatbreads, super easy. This is a good one for to raise your confidence level. It's kind of hard to scoop a flatbread, but it's still pretty good if you follow the instructions. Just good stuff. And you said, it is. The ingredients are high quality, but it does come out cheaper than having to go out to grocery shop. They deliver it right to your front step. It is, and the protein is frozen and perfectly packaged and taken care of. So everything's fresh, hence the name. So you don't have to leave your house. I mean, it's a real good gimmick. If you haven't tried it, go try it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Jimmy, it's almost, I feel like the Sham Wow guy or something. Not only is it cheaper, not only is it easier, not only is it healthier, but they deliver it right to your door.
Yeah, and it is really good. I mean, I know Justin mentioned some of the stuff he liked. Like I'm big into chicken as well, but I got the breaded chicken with the honey parsley, carrots, and lemon mayo, which was awesome. The Tuscan sausage linguine. Where do I go? Squash ravioli with roasted cauliflower, savory beef bowls, chorizo and pepper tortas. Even their cheeseburgers, saucy cheeseburgers with the fried onions is awesome. I just, let me put it this way, and I'm not saying this just because they're a sponsor. There hasn't been a meal from HelloFresh that I have not liked.
Yes, there's a reason I save all the recipes too, because they're
me too, yeah.
And you can they're great to have. But I always just say everyone should go to hellofresh.com/INC18 and use code INC18 for 18 free meals plus free shipping. That is hellofresh.com/INC18 and use code INC18 for 18 free meals plus free shipping. Justin, that's insane.
That's 6 separate, because they ship 3 meals at a time. That's 6. Right. So you can get 6 weeks out of it. That's if you need to do one every week, or if you need to 18 free meals plus free shipping. That is a steal right now in the economy with what things are costing out on the world.
I mean, just try it. Worst case scenario, you get your grocery shopping done for weeks.
Wow.
I knew they were sponsors tonight, and I saw the bullet point sponsor notes. I didn't go as far down the script to see that the offer was that now. Oh my God.
Wow.
I swear incredible. It's crazy. 18 of them. But if my wife #1 meal kit.
Yeah, when my wife reads this or hears this podcast, she's going to say, "Oh my goodness, she's probably going to apply for it."
Thank you to HelloFresh, and thank you to everyone who tries it. Thank you to everyone who is watching us, by the way, whether you are or listening to us on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. or watching on YouTube. Like, comment, share, subscribe. If you're here in the chat, though, I want to shout out Tommy, Jiff, King, Dylan, Matthews. We also got Ethan, Cruz, Justine in the house, Dream Realm Studios, Sergio, Adam, Steven, Ricky, and SXQRZ. Don't know how to pronounce it, but you know who you are. Bernie, Rocky, and everyone else. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Got a few special shout outs I want to give too, by the way. Oh, Jay Flame as well. But last week, Veggie Gamer, by the way, left a nice little comment saying that they agreed with my thoughts about Sammy just doing his job, hitting Kevin Owens, but also Testosterone on the comment said that Jimmy is like the insider, Jack is the pro, but LaBar is the brother man GOAT. I want to know how much you paid this Testosterone to give you the brother man GOAT award.
I gave him the brother deal.
There you go.
We also got some nice comments on Apple Podcasts. Gargoyle9 gave a 5-star review and said, always catch the after shows Monday, Tuesday, and Friday on YouTube from Atlanta. You guys are so fun and make for a much needed escape at times. Thanks for all you do and all the fun you bring. But then goes on to say if there was a War Games match that Triple J wouldn't win it. So I almost didn't give you a shout out, but the 5-star review did the trick. Kenny Franklin also left us a 5-star review. Said, awesome podcast. This is for Jack. Love the podcast. Love the channel. Sorry, Jack, but I'm Team Issa. Issa!
Oh, wow.
Fighting words.
Kenny,
Sorry, Jack.
Yeah.
Jack, you missed it last Wednesday. I with the appearance of Lil Bow Wow on Dynamite, I had the gall to ask her if Bow Wow was better than Bad Bunny.
Oh, yeah.
Clearly the biggest musical guest of all time in pro wrestling.
Yeah, almost had to go get my ref shirt out for that one too.
You could see the steam just rising.
I think Bow Wow might be the greatest musical guest of all time in pro wrestling after his appearances. We got a few shout outs before we move on too on Twitter, by the way, at stunning_Steve82 said we are the best podcast on the internet. And I think that's fair. At T_Walls put us, said we were at his top Spotify listens, as well as at James Winter 86. We were at the top Spotify listens. So thanks to everyone for all those kind words this past week. I believe there may have been some more. I didn't get them. I'm gonna be honest with you. I was like, I'm going to write those down, but let me go do something first. I didn't write all of them down. I think I got most of them though. So appreciate you guys.
Yeah.
Let's talk about this episode of WWE Monday Night Raw. It starts with the Usos versus Riddle and Elias. In the parking lot, Riddle rides through the Bloodline, and then the Bloodline jumps Elias, so the tag match isn't happening, but Riddle says, oh no, it will. KO will be his partner, and we get a surprisingly good one, considering I don't think anyone thought that K-Bro would win. Ends with KO chasing off the Bloodline, except for Solo, who hits Riddle with that Umaga spike. Jimmy Korderas. KO says he wants nothing to do with Sammy, but it kind of feel like he does.
Yeah, I think that rivalry is going to continue. It almost feels like I hate to be the guy who's going, oh, conspiracy theory here. I think eventually down the road, it sort of ends up being KO and Sammy as the ones to dethrone the Usos of those titles down the road. But that story needs to take time to materialize. They can't rush it. Take your time. I think this was a nice continuation of where I think it's going. I don't know if I think it's going that way. Maybe it's more me hoping so.
Well, you say time. I mean, if we're talking WrestleMania, that's a very long time away. Even if it's Royal Rumble, it's still kind of a long ways away. But Justin, I got to ask you, I got to talk to you about this. Last week, we said Riddle seemed a bit lost, but now him and Solo seem like they could be in a very great program.
Yeah, that seems like what I got out of this was that's Solo's going to get a singles feud. We're seeing the Bloodline minus Roman Reigns now appear on Raw more often, and I think that's a good idea because one, the act is so over, use them. Two, the act has still, even without Roman, still has so many guys in it that you can occupy both shows and it not be overkill. You can spread the booking out. And 3, we don't have another premium live event until January 29th, which is when Rumble is. So you have a long way to go. So I think having them all, so I think building to, Solo versus Riddle finally having a match, you can build it for several weeks and then make a big deal out of it on Raw when they have the payoff. And we've seen this happen on the new creative regime. We've seen them build and build and build to Miz versus Dexter, Miz versus Gargano. They don't have to hold a match just for a premium live event, and vice versa. On the flip side, they don't have to give us the same match 6 weeks in a row. So, yeah, I took away from this that this is a Solo and Riddle given something to do here. I'm curious the decision about Elias. Obviously, Elias was there. That pre-tape was done at the Capital One Arena. Obviously, I'm a DC guy. That's an arena I've gone to my whole life. I know where they were in that building. So Elias was there. So it's not like he wasn't there. Is he injured? Is he sick? Maybe, and that was a way to get out of it. Or was it just, again, back to your original kind of booking, Jack? Was it a way to insert KO into this for what could eventually be happening? So I'll be really curious to watch Elias for the next few weeks. Because even since he's been back as Elias, there's still been, it hasn't been shooting him back to the moon right now. So I'm watching that. But yeah, God, the suggestion of Sammy and KO eventually realigning together, best friends again, and being the ones to end. I mean, as of today, it was 505 days. So, God, by the time I get to WrestleMania, it'll be, I don't even know what. I mean, that would be a huge WrestleMania match if things finally implode between Jey Uso and Sami Zayn, and then all hell breaks loose after that.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned Elias, Justin. I want to double back to you on this one because I do want to speak to you specifically about Elias because I know Elias is your guy. I felt bad for the guy. He spent his whole career getting interrupted and then beaten up. He interrupts someone for the first time, and then he gets beaten up again. He can't catch a break. Do you think that this is, and you're kind of alluding to it, but I guess just to peel the onion a little bit more, do you think that this was just a means to an end to get KO back in front of the bloodline? Or do you think that maybe they're going, you know what, we need to take Elias off again for like a week or two and then bring him back as old Elias? Or
I'd like to think it was just a way to get KO on. It was just a way to get KO a nice hero pop that he's the substitute. I mean, because again, they had a lot. I mean, they did away with Ezekiel and they made a point to even promote we're bringing Elias back, and Elias has gotten some wins and he's gotten some favorable TV time. So I don't feel like I would hope that there's not a regret of we brought Elias back and we didn't really want to do that. I just think they need to find a path for him, and maybe they have a creative pitch. Maybe creative has figured out, hey, we got an idea for Elias, but it has nothing to do with him being caught up in this Riddle bloodline stuff. So how do we get him out of it? And so again, I'll keep an eye and watch, and let's see. Hopefully that's the case, because that was the thing that I scratched my head with watching that opening pre-tape was, okay, we physically saw Elias. He's there, and they wrote him out of the match, and we saw him never again. So I'm hoping that they found a new creative avenue for him, and this is just a way to get him out of it.
Last thing on this, Jimmy, is I want to talk to you about two things that happened and just get your quick thoughts on it. Both were kind of mentioned throughout the night. One was that Riddle left in an ambulance. So one, I want to know your thoughts. Do you think he's going to be off TV for a little bit, or is this going to be one of those things where he just comes back next week with a neck brace and is like, I'm going to come get you down the line? And two, something they talked about a lot is Sammy pulling Jey Uso out of the way from that diving move. Do you think that was just them kind of reiterating, hey, Jey and Sammy are good, or is there more to that? So Riddle, is he off TV for a little bit? And is there more to the story with the whole pulling Sammy out of the way or Jey out of the way?
As far as Riddle being off TV, I hope so. And if they do insist on showing him next week in some form or fashion in a neck brace or whatever the case may be, something on his face, whatever it is, do it in a setting where it looks like he's, doing it from home instead of being at the arena, because then it gives the injury that much more gravitas. It makes it more intense, and and keep him out of the ring and out of action for a little while. As for the Jey Uso and Sammy interaction there, I think it is a nice little seed planting that, yes, they're starting to work together and they're starting to be on the same page. And then like I said earlier, hopefully down the road, those little things start to backfire. And maybe were they backfiring by accident? Were they just not on the same page? Or has Sammy had enough of Jey Uso and the Usos, and that's when him and KO decide, hey, enough is enough.
And if they're in the Rumble, if they're dispatched to go to the Rumble to protect the head of the table, what happens if one of them goes rogue and becomes every man for themselves? I mean, there's a lot of potential. Oh, and by the way, you said Matt Riddle on a stretcher in an ambulance. That ambulance took him to the local hospital in D.C., not the local medical facility.
Yeah.
Just want to point that out.
Just so
the medical facility was booked up. So
they were full.
No more beds.
So refreshing to hear normal words from commentary. We move on to the kind of the chunk of the show that was really one of my favorites, and that was we get a backstage segment with Rhea kind of talking trash. Then we get a promo between Bayley and Becky that I thought was just a treat. We get a stare down with Becky and Rhea, which I thought was great. We get a match between Asuka and Rhea and Bayley, and that I thought was really cool. It all breaks down to Bayley getting the win and getting into that number one contendership match for the championship. Post-match, Rhea beats up Asuka. Lots and lots of stuff here, Jimmy. I want to take it back to Rhea here. Rhea's going to be was my favorite part of this whole thing. I want to go back to that little promo she did. And something I really loved about this promo with the Judgment Day is that they were actually felt like they enjoyed hanging out together. Sometimes these dark gothy groups, they're always like gothy and weird, but like they're friends. And it felt like this was a group of people that were actually friends, but they're still gothy and weird, I guess. I don't know. I just enjoyed that.
Well, and that's the thing here. You make it feel as authentic as possible when your viewer is watching you going, oh, that sounds like them trying to be, I'm just using an example, trying to be a heel or trying to be a baby face. It doesn't come off sounding, authentic. This does feel like a group that likes to hang out together. You are absolutely right. And it's that, I don't know, the formula is working for them. Not just them, but it is working for them. And Rhea just has that presence about her. She's got that. I think Justin has referred to it as that airport test thing. She has that.
Yes.
And it's working right now. And she's hitting on all cylinders, and it's rubbing off on the others in the group as well. Not that Finn Balor needed it, not that Damian needed it, but Dom needed it. And Dom is feeding off this really well. And the group is awesome right now.
I want to talk, Justin, and we'll double back to the promos, but since we're talking about Rhea here, that stare down with Becky Lynch, like, did you hear the cash register sound? Because I feel like I heard the cash register sound as those two were staring each other down.
Yeah, and look, Rhea Ripley's had 2 WrestleMania women's title matches in the past. Just unfortunately, the first one was obviously in 2020 when when the world went crazy. So, but even then, like I almost kind of dismissed them because I just feel like it was Rhea Ripley by name, but now we are truly in Rhea Ripley. Like I sing her praises every week, and I'm going to continue to because I don't know how I can't stop. To me, she is in the argument for the MVP of the new creative regime. The way that she just comes off, and her and Becky, and you know what, part of me, I wanted to see Rhea win the triple threat to go on, maybe move closer. She doesn't, but the bigger picture here in me is like, all right, that's probably a good thing because hold it off, because when she is going to challenge for the title, it needs to be a big moment. It needs to be a big show, probably WrestleMania if things keep rolling the way they are. Yeah, and Jack, to your, there is an organic feeling there. And I can tell you, Priest, Damian, and Rhea, they are buddies outside of the show. So you can feel that. You can feel Rhea jumping up to high five Priest, and I don't know as much about Dom and Finn, but it seems like Dom and Rhea, if not, they're at least faking it to make it on camera that they have some chemistry together with the the weird relationship that's kind of on the camera there. And then I don't know what Finn's deal is, but you're right. Watching it feels believable. It's not a dark group that has spooky mystical power. How do they have this magical power? They're a dark group that is looking out for each other, and you don't want to cross them, and they're going to do whatever it takes to win. Man, and that goes for the female as well, because she's shown she can get in there and scrap with the guys, and they have come such a long way from where they were last spring in their formation.
It's been so good. Jimmy, I want to ask you, last week you had some critiques for the Becky Lynch promo. This week we got Becky coming through the crowd, gets in the ring with Bayley, and these two go at it. Again, I thought this was just a treat to watch, but how did it go for you this time around?
It was a little different. I don't mind her entering through the crowd. It just going out there last week, it felt like she was placating to the crowd, for lack of a better term. I like the more edgier Becky, and I don't want her to be like totally anti interaction with the audience and with the fans. But I thought she went a little bit overboard last week. That's all. This entering through the crowd, a couple of high fives here and there, I'm fine with that.
You don't want her to be like Disney, like
yes,
like too cartoony, too silly, to eat your vitamins and say your prayers.
Right. Exactamundo.
I get what you're saying.
Hey, Jack, can we give a history stat boy kind of shout out to Bernie?
Oh yeah.
Saying crazy to think Dom doing the Three Amigos tonight, 17 years from when his custody was up for grabs at the same building, the ladder match. That's true. It was the MCI Center or Verizon Center, whatever it was called then, but it was that building for pay-per-view where it was the ladder match where Dom's custody papers were up for grabs. That's just kind of cool. That's kind of cool. Good call, Bernie.
What a good Bernie DC. Of course, Bernie DC knows the DC shot there. I do think line of the night, I think, though, was when Becky was like, yeah, you carried this place through the Thunderdome era. And Bayley says, you can cheer that. And no one cheered her for it.
It's like this thing we all just try to block out in our mind.
Right. So, yeah, it looks like Bayley's moving on. And just a little side thing here that maybe no one else will get. But the way Rhea attacked Asuka after the match, because Asuka looked like she was out, and then Rhea just started punching her anyways. It reminded me of a random South Park episode where all the guys sneak into Cartman's room when he's sleeping, and they're going to like steal something or whatever, and Cartman's sleeping, and they sneak in and they go, we better knock him out. And then they just start beating him up while he's asleep. That's how I felt with Asuka. Like she was knocked out, and then Rhea just comes over and starts punching her in the face. I was like, she's already out. What are you going to do to her? But
right. But really quickly here, hats off to the ladies because they had a heck of a three-way, I thought. Yeah.
Great match. And just talk about depth in that division. So many options they could go with there. But not to be outdone in the division depth department, Rollins comes out, says he's the number one contender for the U.S. title. Seth wants to know what then Bobby Lashley comes out, and Seth wants to know what Bobby's obsession with Brock Lesnar is, which I think is kind of fair. And it leads to a fight. Lashley accidentally spears Pete Williams, and Austin Theory backstage says forever is just the beginning, but Ali gets in Theory's face. Match set for later tonight. But also later in the night, Pierce says to Lashley, if he makes another mistake, there will be repercussions. Justin, I'm loving the fact that Seth is getting under Bobby Lashley's skin by saying, why are you obsessed with Brock Lesnar? Because it's true, but it also keeps the idea of Brock in the back of our heads. It gives a reason for them to not like each other. I don't know. I just feel like it's a very simple way to make this more than just a match.
No, I agree with you on all those points. I am watching the Seth thing. I mean, look, Seth's got the crowd. Seth's playing more babyface. He's slapping some flesh on his way to the ring. And look, when the pull apart was happening with the officials, the crowd was singing Seth's song and cheering more of him. So it's interesting to watch that Seth. They seem to be gravitating towards him being on the babyface side of things. Also, just to fantasy book a little ahead here. As we come into Rumble season, as we come into Mania season, eyes are on an inevitable return of a Cody Rhodes. And, Cody last was seen in a big feud with Seth. So if they pick that back up, that would be interesting too, because Cody's, of course, going to come back as a babyface, but if Seth's also a babyface. So I'm kind of rambling here, but all things I'm kind of watching. But overall, yeah, you're right. It was all simple stuff tonight. I like it. Obviously, they would not be mentioning Brock if they did not have some idea of when Brock is going to be hopping on a plane from his farm and coming back. So that's kind of exciting too. So all good stuff.
Jimmy, I know they said it was supposed to be an accident, but do you think Lashley speared Pete Williams because he doesn't like Canadian destroyers?
That could be it. Who does like Canadian destroyers? Nobody wants to be on the receiving end of one. That's for sure. Anyways, but taking out an official, and actually who was it? Somebody called him a producer.
Yeah,
Graves did.
Graves called him a producer, which would have got him a fine back in the day. But anyway, I like that he took out somebody, and it wasn't a referee. It was somebody. No,
looking after your fellow zebras, huh?
No, it's just that he took out someone in a suit, and which maybe the lay fan watching didn't realize it was Petey Williams, but still on TV they definitely made a big deal about it. And to the point of keeping Brock Lesnar fresh in everybody's mind just tells you that it looks like he will be coming back, and him versus Bobby Lashley is, two behemoths, two beasts going at it.
And Jimmy's right through the optics, though. You see the refs every match and all night, every night. But when you see the optics of, he spears somebody in a suit, there is just this subconscious thing about that's somebody more important. And real quick, because I don't know when we'll ever get another time to give Petey Williams his flowers on this podcast. I'll say this. I don't know if it's the only two, but it's definitely two that quickly come to mind. If you tell me, do you remember your reaction the first time you saw move fill in the blank? Petey Williams is one of two. The first time I saw Petey Williams on TNA do his standing Canadian Destroyer pile driver, I remember I was in college. I was like, and I had the holy, that was pretty impressive. And the other one was the first time I saw Mr. Kennedy do his Lambo leap, the fireman's carry front forward flip from the second rope. And he did it the first time I saw it, at least, was he did it to Funaki on Velocity. And the entire crowd went, ooh, it was something you never seen because you had not seen that before.
Right.
So, shout out to Petey Williams. Glad he's getting his time.
That was a move. I love that you say that about the Canadian Destroyer, because the first time I saw it, I definitely had to rewind and go, wait, how did he do this? What was how did this work? Because it was such just the idea of it was unheard of at the time.
And that's the operative word, was, because people kick out of it nowadays. So it's like, gee.
Yeah.
I guess it's because it's a Canadian Destroyer, the exchange rate, you need a 4 count.
Gets kicked out of almost as much as the F5 these days. But we have the I did want to say, just as a quick note,
exchange rate.
I did want to say I love the interaction with Adam Pearce and Bobby Lashley, because it felt more organic too, where Pearce was like, I get it, it was an accident, I like you, just don't do it again, and Lashley being don't being upset. It wasn't just, I'm authority figure, well, I don't like authority. It felt like Adam Pearce was talking to a guy who look, I know you're a good dude, it was probably whatever, and I just like that it was more natural feeling than just a authority. I hate authority. Their delivery was good, I thought. We get to what was kind of the running bit throughout the whole thing on this one, and it caused some matches, but for now we'll just talk about the backstage portion. That was the JBL Poker Invitational. Everyone was backstage gambling. JBL is getting things ready when Dexter offers to put the Miz's money up as a buy-in. Later, Gable wants to quit because he's smart, and it's about when you walk away. And Gallows makes fun of him. Then Dexter shows off his poker face, which, again, brilliant move because he doesn't make a face. And then Akira and Dom set up their match because Dom is a thief. Miz wants in the poker game, but he can't pay his debts. And then Corbin also gets caught cheating, and things break down, and Dexter ends up being the winner. Justin, I love this whole bit because, one, it was just a little entertaining thing running through the show, but also it gave so many people a chance to sort of do some character stuff and get people to interact and get matches on TV.
Yeah, it's WWE. This was certainly an entertainment portion. This was a way to get a lot of people some FaceTime. It was a way to thread to get some matches created. as we talked about, we have a long ways to go until you have Rumbles. So, we're still weeks away from those declaring their entrance into the Rumble. So, it furthered some, it was clever. Dexter doesn't break this, so put him in a poker face situation. I could pick some of it apart, but overall I was okay with it. Actually, the biggest thing that actually drove me nuts, and this is a real weird production thing, but I mean it's worthwhile. When we got the Judgment Day pre-tape backstage, where they're all getting ready, and Rhea's getting ready to start walking to get ready to go to the ring for her match. So we see her walk. We go to the commentary desk. They give us about 45 seconds, and then we go for the first time to the Poker Invitational, and Dom's sitting right there. And I was kind of like, well, he was just. How did he get invested and have money and chips and card? And then that's the little thing. I don't know how many other people were caring about that, but overall, I thought it was a clever way to try to, again, get some people FaceTime, whether they had a match or not, and further characters. Was it the most compelling? No, but it allowed everybody to get a little FaceTime.
Those are good things to notice, though, because people do notice it, and it is kind of a whoopsie daisy, but yeah, Jimmy, how did you feel about this? I felt like we got a lot of stuff out of it. Again, not something that this will never be on a greatest hits documentary, but for a December Monday Night Raw, I thought it was entertaining.
I get the whole premise of it, and trust me, if anybody likes good, fun comedy segments on pro wrestling shows, I'm one, especially if it's good and it works. I do have a little bit of an issue with Dexter Lumis being a part of this. I think it was too soon to have him put in a quote unquote comedy segment, because that's what the JBL Poker Invitational was. It's more ha and gaga, and set up a couple of matches as well. So I don't think it was the right time to put him in that scenario. And yes, I get he has the poker face, Justin, which he kept very stoically. And of course, winning one hand with the dead man's hand, which was the Aces over Jacks. I believe that's what it's called, if I'm not mistaken. Somebody will definitely correct me if I'm wrong. But I just didn't think it was the right setting for him at the right time. And of course, having no Ron Simmons throwing out a damn in there, obviously was
yeah. Well, it might be a sign towards what they are and aren't going to do with Dexter. I mean, we talked about for weeks there until we knew all the motives and backstory and all the Miz that screwed him. We questioned why. Well, this guy's like coming off as a psychopath that's trying to kidnap and invade Miz's house, and yet we're cheering him. Maybe it is going to be, maybe Dexter Lumis is not going to be as serious as a heart attack, and he is going to be a little lighter. I don't know, but I mean, I can see the argument to that, but that's the only thing I can figure is that they, even look at the ending of last week's match. Even after he finally had his match, he was handing money out to kids. So I don't. Maybe that's just going to be a lighter spin on him.
But he also had a C-clamp getting tightened on his head last week too. So you know what I mean?
Wow.
Yeah, that's funny. That's the idea of somebody having a C-clamp put on their head in a match just cracks me up. We get a match between Theory and Ali, and the match is cooking when Ziggler shows up and attacks Theory, causing the DQ. Ali gets angry about it and starts jawing with Ziggler, and Theory attacks them both. This is a very kind of basic thing, Jimmy, but Ali's wearing different tights. Do you think that it matters that he is dressing differently and looking differently when he's still kind of finding his place on Raw, or should he wear it and look the same way so we can come to know him, if that makes sense?
Unfortunately, at this point, I don't think it really matters, because for some reason the fans are not buying into him. It doesn't feel like they are anyways. And he's a good talent, and he's not bad on the mic, but he needs to get better in presenting himself on the microphone and in the way he speaks. In the ring, he's fine. There's absolutely nothing wrong with his work in the ring. He just has to work on his character development to get people behind him, which for some reason they haven't been. At least it doesn't feel like they are right now.
Justin, with this match, the thing that I took away at the end is I was thinking tonight, again, we've seen a lot of people, but I was thinking about this. We got Theory, we got Rollins, we got Lashley, we got Ali, we got Ziggler in this U.S. title picture. And look, I don't know when Cody Rhodes is coming back, but if you factored him in, we got enough for an elimination chamber, baby. Do you think that maybe that could be something that happens, or is that too far away for me to be fantasy booking that?
Well, it could. Look, we talked about how they've made a point to elevate the U.S. and IC titles, but I mean, I still, as you're talking about Elimination Chamber, which is going to be in between Rumble and Mania, there's still the big question mark is Roman Reigns defending both world titles in whatever match he has, or does Roman Reigns have? Look, Mania is 2 nights. Does Roman Reigns have 2 matches? One night's for the U.S. or the Universal title, the other night for the WWE Championship, so everybody's speculating The Rock. Is there more than just The Rock? So I don't know. But I guess that is an option, of course, is that the U.S. title, again, if you want to elevate it, that you could let it play out with the Elimination Chamber. To the point to Mustafa Ali, it's like they wanted to say, yeah, we're gonna try and give him an honest, but they really haven't. They really don't want to. I kind of feel like he needs to get off of Raw and SmackDown. If anything, actually, let him go down to NXT and be like what we've seen. Apollo Crews is doing it right now. We've seen others go down to NXT. There needs to be some. I don't send him home and not have him do anything because he's a healthy talent. So have him do something to contribute. But I feel like you'd be hard pressed without doing something drastic. And when I say drastic, I mean like him winning a title out of nowhere. I feel like at this point, we all kind of feel the same way. It's like when I see him, I just don't believe. I don't believe in who he is. I don't believe that he's going to do anything important. He won tonight because of a DQ, because of Dolph Ziggler. I mean, there's just obviously not a commitment to him or a spot for him right now. So I'd say try him on NXT.
Yeah, I think with him, I try to think of who could, if he was in a match, who's the biggest name he could be in a match with where I would think, okay, he's going to win. And it's not a very big name that I could imagine him in the ring with, confidently feeling Ali was going to win. And that's a problem if you're going to have him mixing it up with some of the people he's in there with. Right. Bianca Belair has a quick promo. I don't really know if there's anything to take away from that. It's just kind of like talking about the match later, unless you guys have something you want to add to it. But
no.
So we get the OC and versus Corbin and Alpha Academy. I get it's a fun one with the OC getting one up here. I don't know if anyone has been a part of more 3-man team combinations than Baron Corbin. I think feels like he's always getting paired up with random other bad guys. But let me ask you this, Jimmy. OC, are they coming up on a title shot soon? I feel like they've been beating everybody. I know it seems like the Street Profits are next, but OC's got to be in the running pretty soon, right?
Well, I don't think it has to be pretty soon, but eventually I think, Anderson and Gallows definitely can match up well with the Usos as far as putting on a heck of a match. I mean, those guys, all 4 of them would put on, we have the conflicting style, so to speak. You got the Usos versus the hard-hitting, technical style of Gallows and Anderson. That definitely is a match I want to see, but I want to see them work towards it. Again, I don't want to just see it happen because I like both teams. Yeah,
I guess they could go for a few rounds with the Alpha Academy first to kind of get there.
Exactly. And then, and you have, of course, AJ. Why not have him, maybe possibly have a one-off with Roman, setting Roman up for whatever's coming for him.
Well, that's what I was thinking, Jimmy. Is that was the magical piece there. And Justin, I'd love to know your thoughts. We get the OC versus the Usos, but then AJ Styles versus Roman Reigns. That one would be a fun one as well. And to me, a great little match on the way to WrestleMania.
Yeah, I mean, look, the Usos have gone through so many teams, and obviously Gallows and Anderson have been gone, in these last few years. So that would be a fresh, credible team to let them get some matches and some time out with. And yeah, AJ, I mean, again, I think we all agree if Roman's dropping this title anywhere in the future that we can book, it would be at Mania. That he's not going to lose the pride, you know what I mean? So if he still needs
FS1.
right. So if he does still need, big matches, for premium live events like Rumble, like Chamber, or anything else they do, AJ Styles, that would be a match. That would be a match. It's like, all right, I'm gonna watch. That's a credible marquee. Do I think Roman's losing? I don't think so, but I'm gonna watch and find out. I'm right there with you. I think AJ and the OC I think they could all be valuable challengers to continue the reigns that Roman Reigns and the Usos are currently doing.
Well, from one family to another, the Usos to the Garganos, we got a Candice LeRae interview and kind of reestablishes here for the first time on the main roster that the Gargano family, to a degree, is still together. Also, we got someone lurking and watching on in the distance in the back. Justin, how's Candice doing for you right now as far as this very deep roster of people on this Raw?
Yeah, she's not really standing out. I know she hasn't been back very long, but she's not standing out. There's the female roster is deep right now. We've also had a lot of returns or repackages. Nikki Cross is back being Nikki Cross. Tegan Knox just came back. There's a lot going on. So Candice has some work to do, point blank, to set herself above and to carve out her space in the division and tell me why she matters. Why does she have TV time? Well, and then that's just being blunt. So hopefully she does it. But if right now, yeah, she's not made any kind of impact to me. She needs to do that. And I think she has a match next Monday, so that starts opportunities to do that.
Jimmy, do you think the right move is to pair her back up with Johnny Gargano and Dexter Lumis? And I mean, I'm just guessing here, but kind of go to what they were doing in NXT to help her stand out. Because like Justin said, I'm a fan of Candice LeRae, but this division right now is so stacked. You got to be really firing on all cylinders to make a dent.
No, absolutely. You're right. You have to fire on all cylinders. And that's the thing. I think Candice LeRae does not need to be with Johnny Gargano and Dexter Lumis. You don't need that scary lurking individual, especially hanging around that couple, so to speak. I think she needs to stand out on her own. I think she needs to find herself. She's kind of suffering from that same thing a little bit, again, to be blunt, that Mustafa Ali is. In the ring, she's fine. She's a great talent in the ring. She needs to find herself outside the ring and being able to get people to get invested in her, not just what she does in the ring.
Right. I think we're all on the same page there with her. We got Dom versus Akira Tozawa. Dom picks up the win, and before he can attack Dom, the Street Profits show up. Not a huge thing here. It looks like we're getting Street Profits versus Judgment Day down the road at some point. Justin, my question for you, this is a very low stakes question, but why not? Akira's change, is it worth it? Like, if this was the Ninja Akira, would it feel different than it did today?
I mean, yeah, I guess the Ninja I do associate with the 24/7 title, so I guess him at least in a different ring attire gives him a little bit more credibility. But I looked at it as just a step above, Sunday 11 a.m. superstars. It was just a match for Dom to get out there, get some reps, and get a win. I don't. It was a step. It was a step above complete squash because it wasn't a local name that the national TV audience doesn't know. It's somebody that's part of the roster, has been, so it's supposed to have a little bit more credibility, but nothing more, nothing less.
Jimmy, if Street Profits are coming after the Judgment Day, what two are they going to face? You think, is it going to be Dom and Priest, and then maybe Balor goes and does something else, or how do you think they work that out?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it would have to be Dom and Priest because Finn almost seems like he's more suited for singles competition as opposed to tag. Obviously, when they're in 6-man situations or that sort of thing, he belongs there. But as the leader of the group, I think he would be the one that stands out in a singles rivalry with somebody, as opposed to teaming with Damian Priest or even teaming with Dom.
Plus, I think it's more fun when Dom hides behind a big guy like Priest than hiding behind
and Rhea.
And Rhea.
Yes.
That's fun too.
Mhm.
We get to the main event here. Becky versus Alexa versus Nikki. Damage Control gets involved and puts Becky through the announce table. Bliss hits the Twisted Bliss on Cross and gets the win. She will face Bayley next week, with the winner of that match getting a shot at the title. Justin, I think that I was glad with this ending, because I feel like if we had Becky versus Bayley, it would be a choice between two matches we've seen a million times before. Do you think this match should have been the main event? I felt like these two triple threats should have been flip-flopped.
Yeah, it's funny you said that. I was kind of curious with a lot of placement of things of what really had main event worthy tones to it. I mean, to be quite frank, again, we and Jimmy and I joke, because we do this on Wednesday nights very regularly with AEW, with where they place things. I could play armchair booker and say, kick off the show with the pre-tape of the Usos the Bloodline arriving, and then Elias being attacked and blah 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 blah, leaving to speculate the entire night what's going to happen, and then let the main event be the Usos versus Matt Riddle, and then said partner Kevin Owens. Again, that's having the luxury of seeing how this night played out and taking the temperature of the crowd. But I mean, it was a little bit of a weird main event to have to have it go the way it did. But again, I mean, I'm not going to agonize over it. But yeah, armchair booker, I would definitely do things differently.
Jimmy, we got some teases with Bray Wyatt and Alexa again, and now Alexa looks like she's going on to the match. I was watching this. I thought this was going to be the main event, because I thought something with Bray was going to happen, which then made me feel kind of disappointed at the end, because I didn't get anything happening. But I feel like the Bray Wyatt thing is going to happen with Alexa sooner rather than later at this point, right?
It does feel that way, because we've had those hints, those little things that have been dropping in and out on the screen, and everybody's been noticing, or at least I hope they did anyways. But to Justin's point about, this being the main event, and it's not taking away from the match, because the match, again, delivered. I thought it was a good match. It's just, I always tend to say here, the most important parts of the show is how you start and how you end. And when you end the show, you want people talking about the ending. You want people to remember what they saw going off the air. And hearing Justin's armchair booker there, having people seeing the ending of what happened at that tag match earlier in the night, maybe would have been a better way to go off the air and have people talking. Not saying that the women didn't deserve to be in that spot, but I don't know if it got the crowd as invested as it should have, because, like you guys said, it is a very deep division, the women's division right now. And you had 6 women tonight just pretty much have a wonderful night. But again, was it main event worthy? And I ranted about this and I hate to go back to SmackDown, the SmackDown main event that they had with the finals of the World Cup tournament. Maybe that should have been this week, because having it on FS1, yes, you want to elevate talent, but you want to have them in front of the biggest audience possible. FS1 isn't your biggest audience possible. Maybe they could have got a few more fans on board with them if they'd have put that match. Anyways, I digress.
Well, but we armchair booker, but it also is a case of, we're talking about a 3-hour show. They might, I don't know, they might have an internal memo that's going around that says, look, the first segment is our most important, because the first segment has the best viewership. It does. From this 8 to 11, the first segment normally has the best viewership. So the third hour does usually have the lowest. The third hour is your most diehard. So anybody who is any definition of a casual fan, they've probably dropped off. So maybe it is a thing where they feel like, what? Usos versus Riddle, and who's Riddle's partner? Oh, it's Kevin Owens. That has to be up front, because we want the most people to see that. That just might be the way it is at this point. I don't know. I don't know what their strategy is, but I think we all kind of have the traditional mentality of, like Jimmy said, main event's your most important. And then your next is how you start the show. But they might have flip flopped at this point. They might have said the first is how we're gonna measure things.
Well, and I could see them also saying, look, Becky Lynch is one of our biggest stars, and Alexa Bliss is a former champion, and Nikki Cross is doing things, and there's the tease of Bray Wyatt. So there's interest with this whole thing. The reason I said these should be flip-flops is I feel like Bayley is a potential champion in the making. Rhea Ripley, hottest thing going right now, and Asuka still Asuka. But again, it is what it is. At the end of the day, though, I feel like this was I said on Twitter, I don't recall an episode of wrestling in recent time that showed how quality of depth of its entire roster in one show as seamlessly as this one did, without it feeling, as Jimmy likes to say, the 20 pounds in a 5-pound bag or whatever the situation is. It felt like they showcased so many people and showcased how talented and deep their roster is throughout this whole episode. And I think in that way, it actually is like the perfect December build up to a Royal Rumble down the road. Jimmy, what say you?
No, I did enjoy the show. I thought it was a good show. My only issue is not every match has to go through 2 commercial breaks.
Yeah.
I get it. I'm one who enjoys longer matches, but at the same time, I like variety. I like sometimes matches end quicker. This just felt like every match had to get its time in. And especially going to break, you don't have to do a spot outside the ring every time you go to break.
There was literally like today, they went to the outside and I got up to go get some from the kitchen before they went to break because I knew this is where they're going to break, and they did. And it was like, okay.
That's become a formatting thing that it must be a cue so the truck knows this is the spot to go to the break, right. Where we reset the action. But I agree. I think, Jack, I think there's something to what you said. This definitely showed off the depth that this was them showing off all the toys they have, but not doing the 20 pounds and 10-pound bag. I mean, which it shouldn't be because you have 3 hours, so you have plenty of time. It's not.
You got a very big bag, so.
Right? It's not an AEW Dynamite situation where you have 2 hours and they're really trying to cram it all in too. But I will say this: if you're a regular viewer that's going to watch no matter what, which all 3 of us are, you look at this show and you can highlight depth, and we start to long-term book Rumble and Chamber and Mania. But I'll be honest, for those that are using us as the barometer, using us to tell them, you could not watch tonight's episode of Raw. You'll be fine. You didn't miss anything that you could pick back up next week and you'll be fine. But they're in a tricky spot. This is the first show, and I tweeted this earlier today. First Raw of December. There's no December pay-per-view. There's no New Year's Day pay-per-view. There's nothing or premium live event. There's nothing until January 29th. So this is a long stretch to and you're not gonna do anything too drastic because you're not gonna make drastic title changes when you're getting ready to go into your money period of the calendar. So I think they put their best. I think they really do. I think they put the best effort towards it. I think that was kind of the fun thing about the whole poker thing. We need a theme. We need some kind of a theme. So that was a theme.
Yeah, I agree. I think that, if you missed it, you're fine. But again, it's tough to give you stuff to watch that's entertaining without giving too much away. Where you're like, oh great, we still have how many weeks? 8 weeks before our next our next show. So I have a feeling they'll give us some kind of super show in the middle somewhere. Maybe not say it, but like. We'll probably get a Raw that's like really big coming up before the holidays or sometimes after the holiday. But I think that does it for the show. That does it for us. That does it for Wrestling Inc. Thank you to everyone in the chat, by the way. Kenny Williams, Baby Ice, Soundman, BK11, Sofit, Kekovic? I don't know how to say your name, but Sofit, thank you so much. Dream Realm and Ricky and everyone else, Bernie, and everyone else for joining us here. Thank you so much. Before we go, though, Justin LaBar, where can the world find you online?
At Justin LaBar, across the social media. That's where I'm at. Find me, follow me, like, retweet, share, be kind.
And here, of course.
And here. And Jimmy, where can the world find you?
Like I said, on here, you can find me on my social media doing my thing, being the Canadian heat magnet with my ref and rants from Monday to Friday. And you can find me here at Triple J on Monday nights and Talking Dynamite on Wednesday nights.
Yep. And of course, like you had mentioned, you can find Wrestling Inc. You can follow all the news there. And of course, the after shows for NXT tomorrow on Tuesday and on Wednesday, the Dynamite, and Friday, the SmackDown and Rampage. And then I would assume this weekend there's a NXT after show. I don't know. We'll have to see. But make sure to follow it there. I'm Jack Farmer. You can find me at Real Jack Farmer across all social media. That does it for us. Why don't you hit the like, comment, share, subscribe button since you're here? That does it for us.